I like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called Brazen. About an hour, 36 minutes long. Spoiler alert, let's just get it. So we start off with this chick. What the heck is this with some dominatrix shit? So her porn name is Desiree, but it's really this lady named Kathy. Then we go to this scene where this lady named Grace is having a press conference for a new book. And she does a lot of murder mysteries, but for right now she's about to take a little bit of time off. So she actually ends up going to see her sister Kathy. Yeah, so apparently they're sisters. See the resemblance? Alright, well anyway. So Kathy's situation is this. She left her husband and her son. But the thing was, she had no choice because she was like taking Xanax pills and all this other stuff. But the thing is, she's afraid her husband Johnny's going to get full custody of their son. And Johnny's actually a lawyer who has a lot of money backing him. His family is rich or something like that, but anyway. But in the last 4 months, she's gotten off the pills. She teaches high school kids. But unknown to Grace, your sister Kathy also does dominatrix shit on the side. But the thing is, it's like some virtual reality dominatrix stuff. The customers never meet the clients face to face, so it's all good, right? Not to discriminate anybody's taste, but who's paying for that kind of shit? Anyway, we get to this convenience store and it's about to get robbed. But this guy's about to apprehend the subject. By the way, he's actually a detective named Ed. But clearly this guy didn't know it at the time. And it caused his partner out the blue of in this situation. He like, yeah man, I got this nigga. Well anyway, Kathy's still feeling distraught about the whole situation. And Grace is there to console her. Next day, Kathy goes to work, Grace doing some writing. But she hears a saw going off next door. Come to find out Ed doing stuff for his house. He ends up living right next door to Kathy. She's like, fuck that shit, I'm about to come out there and pay him a visit. The funny thing is, they know exactly who each other are. She knows he is a detective, and Ed knows Grace is an author. And how does he know that? Because he's got one of her books. Now, as Kathy's teaching, most of her students admire her. She talks to one particular student named Rand. He's not been focusing lately. And she's trying to get to the bottom of it. She cares about her students. Meanwhile, Grace is picking through Kathy's clothes. She's about to get a date. She's trying to clap some detective cheeks. So when Kathy gets home, she gets on FaceTime to be able to talk to her son Jason. Her son Kevin, my bad. And then Johnny comes through to cut the call off. Yeah, damn it, you. So right off the bat, people are not going to like Johnny. Now, they said she was taking all types of pills, but like you said, she's been doing good, you know what I'm saying, going to high schools, teaching kids and whatnot. But the dominatrix thing, obviously, she got to keep secret. But after she gets off the phone, she got some class. She about to go back into her sessions. Yeah, for stuff that you're doing, you always got to keep that strap, baby. Meanwhile, Ed and Grace out enjoying their night. The conversations around homicides and her books. So yeah, match made in heaven, right? After dinner, they come back to his house. He's got to like redecorate the kitchen. And she's kind of helping him out with the suggestions. While that's going on, Kathy done turned to Desiree, doing her daily duties. Meanwhile, who's this shady character at the back door? If this guy's a robber or a killer, why the fuck does he have a gold watch on? He or she, whoever it is. Well, anyway, Ed and Grace get that kissing, and then she goes back to the house. But when she comes back, she finds Kathy dead as shit. What the heck? No, it can't be, ain't so. But she calls Ed over, and it's confirmed Kathy's done deal. Damn. So they made a big deal to find out that in the position that she's in, she has her legs crossed and her arms spread out. Kind of like she's on the cross. My thing is, why is she dead in her bathrobe? Because last time we saw her, she had her dominatrix costume on. So they bring Grace down there to ask her a few questions and, you know, tell her story to the police. And she's actually real good with forensics. The thing that she's really devastated about is the fact that she didn't know about her sister doing virtual reality dominatrix porn shit. And using that to make an extra couple bucks. Obviously, she doesn't want to be alone, so she's staying at Ed's house. He does everything to make her feel comfortable. Now I know what we're thinking here. He's a cop. Her sister is the case. They're living together for the time being. You can't do anything to jeopardize the case. And considering how they feel about each other, that would definitely jeopardize the case. But I'm thinking too much into it. It was just a movie, right? So even though cameras are on the scene and all that, she still wants to go back to the house to collect a few things. She says she promised she won't touch anything that would tamper with the case. She just wants to pick up some things on her sister that doesn't have any information with the, you know, the dominatrix shit. Because Johnny can use that in the custody case. But Kathy's dead, so that really doesn't matter now? Like... Anyway, she goes upstairs, she starts putting together clues like she actually is part of forensics. I'm like, okay. So this is what Ed thinks happened. The killer came through the back door, smashed the glass to get in. Guy left a footprint, his sneakers are size 11. The killer didn't steal anything, so everybody knows he was completely after Kathy. He or she. So after Kathy finished up her broadcast, the killer waited for her to take a shower. Or to get in a robe so she's about to take a shower. But she never got there. Choked over the wire, and that's how she got deaded. But that's what they believe so far. So then they go to the place that Kathy used to work for. It's called Fantasies Incorporated. And they reassure them that clients cannot get to the customers or anything like that. She records all the sessions just to make sure. And it's pretty much a family business. Her father, and her brother-in-law, something like that. Meanwhile, Grace goes back to the high school to pick up some of Kathy's stuff. She talks to some of the students that really love Kathy. This guy, Billy, brings in a box of Kathy's stuff. And she's leaving out, she talks to this kid named Gerald. And he gives her some information or gossip about Billy. She ends up talking to Billy. And Billy says he's not supposed to say nothing, but the guy that sets up the cameras at Fantasy Incorporated is his cousin. And he's not just setting up the cameras, he actually looks at the videos. She goes back and reports the information to Ed. They go to this guy's house, and they get the question of a guy by the name of Richie Garman. So Richie and Billy are cousins. They don't really get a whole lot of information out of him, but he tells them everything he needs to know. So it was kind of a dead end, but it kind of wasn't. They was beefing about who had control over the situation, but bottom line is they kissed and made up. Then we got this guy coming out the blue. This hotshot lawyer is watching some fancy island stuff. This chick by the name of Kathy who goes by Roxanne. So like I said earlier, there's a whole network of these dominatrix people. But why is she important? Because the killer's out doing this thing again. Next thing we know, she's done deal dead as shit. Legs crossed, arms out like a cross. Same way Kathy was laying. So apparently we got ourselves a serial killer. So there's a connection. So Mr. Marks actually called it in. He's cooperating with the police. But he wants to keep it under wraps because he don't want his wife and kids to know what he's doing. Makes sense. So he saw the whole thing go down, but he didn't know what was happening. He just thought it was all part of the show. So when Grace comes back to the house, she sees Johnny snooping around. Grace thinks he's the culprit, but he was like at a fundraiser that same night. So she's like, man, you could have had somebody else do it. Indirectly, without Johnny realizing it, he disclosed the fact that he was going to blackmail Kathy with the dominatrix stuff there before he could keep his son. But once again, she's dead, so that doesn't even matter anymore. It was a heated back and forth. She punched him in his face, and well deserved. But he ain't even mad. He said he's going to let that shit slide. And what's he got to be mad for? His ex-wife is gone. He's got his son. Just evil. But the question is, did Johnny really have Kathy killed? Then they had the funeral. And everybody came to the funeral, including Johnny. Now, whether he did it or not, obviously he has to show up. Obviously, to keep him looking good and all that. Then she has another one-on-one with Gerald. He's just admiring her and everything. He tells her a couple stories. Then his mother pulls him away, who just happens to be the senator of the state. And she pretty much takes him away after that. She goes back to the house and is checking through the cards and stuff like that. And one of the cards says, Desiree, now you are where you belong. Who the heck could have wrote that? She ends up giving her information to the chief of police, and they end up having a meeting. Now, she wants to contribute a lot to this case, and the only reason the chief let that happen is because she was responsible for putting some information together that caught this Illinois rapist or something like that. It took the police 8 months what she was able to do in 3 days. Luckily for her, she's a fan of Grace's books too, and she knows she has some very extensive insight when it comes to her forensic skills. So she lets her tag along with Ed. Now, in hindsight, that's morally irresponsible, especially when it comes to somebody's investigation with their sister on top of that. But they're just gonna let it happen. Once again, it's a movie, folks. Roll with it. So because of the information they drew up, they ended up talking to Randall's father. Apparently, he sent flowers to the funeral and it was charged to his credit card. The thing was, it wasn't his credit card. It was his son's credit card. So they asked him where Rand was on the night of the 10th. He said he was with his wife until he wasn't feeling well, so he went home afterwards. So they start suspecting Rand because of the credit card, his awkwardness, and he wears a size 11 shoe. Same size of the footprint the killer had in the house. So they get information, but they ain't got conclusive evidence just yet. Then somebody else is watching another dominatrix chick by the name of Beyonce. After she gets done with her segment, she's cooking food. Who was this? The killer's behind her. He set it up again. She got dropped. But she gets a kitchen knife and swipes at him. And police go to talk to a suspect. But who are they going to talk to? They're going to talk to Beyonce. She ain't died from no killer. She said she G'd up like that. She ain't knocking her off. So basically, the killer's blood was on the knife, so that's going to be some evidence for the forensics teams. Unfortunately, all the evidence points to Randy, so they end up locking him up. So Grace goes back to talk to Billy again, but he tells her a secret. He tells her that Randy and Richie are actually seeing each other, but trying to keep it under wraps. So what does that do for the case? Does that give motive? So Grace goes back to the police station, and she's not convinced that Randy is the killer. And she thinks Randall and Richie were together at the time of the murders. So Grace goes to Fantasy Incorporated to try to get some of the tapes that Kathy had. So why does she want these tapes? Because her plan is to pretend to be Desiree and lure the killer out into the open. But obviously she needs a flash drive of what she was doing to learn the stuff to be able to act like Desiree, which she picked up from the manager. And she goes over next door after that to see Ed. And finally, in the last 20 minutes of the movie, she ends up giving her the business. And then early morning business. Next day they go to the police station and Grace reveals her plan to become Desiree. Which obviously she didn't tell Ed about this plan because he wouldn't go along with that shit. So now she's back at the house being Desiree while cops are watching and got cameras everywhere set up. Of course the killer's not gonna come around the first time she's doing it. She gotta keep doing this shit. Even more specific, the killer already knows that she killed Kathy. So this is gonna take a little bit of time. Then they start questioning Kathy's classmates. But they don't really get nothing. Then at this pro wrestling spot, Randy and Gerald are in the locker room. By the way, they had to let Randy go because they didn't have enough evidence on him. And then Randy snatches up Gerald's phone and sees some things that could have some incriminating evidence that Gerald is the actual killer. What on the phone? And he ends up beating the shit out of Randy. Next thing we know, he's in the hospital. He tells him about Gerald. And lets Ed know the situation and what's good. Gerald and his mom sit at the table eating dinner. He looks like he's just irritated with everything his mom does to him. So they go back to Grace's house and let her know that they're about to go arrest Gerald. But Grace is like, man, you gotta do this carefully. You know, her mom's a senator. And they pull the team back and that's it. But when they go to arrest Gerald, only the mom is there. That nigga that dipped out, where he go? But when they search the house, he had those laptops and TVs focused on Fantasy Incorporated. So while Grace is sitting at the house, she's just sitting there waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the killer to show up. And it was Gerald the whole time. While he's talking, confessing everything, he didn't realize the laptop was halfway open, and he confessed, and it's all across the Fantasy Live website. They heard everything. And then the beef ensues, there's a tussle. She's reaching for the gun that Kathy had, and then he's about to get her the done deal. He shoots, and then all of a sudden, Ed comes and says that they done deal business. After all that, Ed and Grace end up living together. The end. So there you go, an author that lived a real live murder mystery with high school kids and dominatrix characters and all that shit. Brazen on Netflix. Check it out. Like Chris, we gotta do all that. You already know what time it is. Look easy, all easy, miss. Big, you got him slow.